Welcome back to the European LCS. We're here with the coach of Giants Gaming, Lozrak, and MYM's Yamato Cannon as we look forward to our next game between the Unicorns of Love and the first place SK Gaming. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to dive straight into our first matchup. As said, the Unicorns of Love on the blue side for this one. Vizicachi, Kikis, Power of Evil, Vardags, Hillasang, and Sheepy. The Unicorns of Love last week, they maybe surprisingly went 0-2, and Lozrak, they did lose to you guys in that matchup on their second day. What do you identify as where you shut down the Unicorns of Love?
Well, I think they did a pretty bad pick and ban phase against us because, I don't know, they picked Maokai against Morgana, Sherath against Ari, and they let our AD carry split push all the game against Maokai and get the towers. And
do you feel like when you see Unicorns of Love play, like they lack a strategy? They kind of just go in and see what happens in the game, and they don't seem to have a clear plan. That's, at least when I'm looking at Unicorns and why they're so inconsistent, it's because they don't really use power spikes. They don't know which objectives to group for. Do you guys feel the same way when you look at Unicorns?
well, they are inconsistent, it's true, but I don't know. Against us, they used poke composition, but we got hard engaged with Sivir, and it was easy play against this composition.
Personally, about Unicorns of Love, I would say their strength is their wide champion pool, of course, on Power of Evil, Kikis, and like based on that, like they're a fresh team. They're coming in, they're learning their ground, and I think it's expected of them to be inconsistent. I'm just thinking like in the end stages of the split, I think they will be settled down and they'll have like a clearness and like a consistency.
Do you think the picks and bans is the main thing? Do you feel like the individual strength of the players alone, if they can carry, is big enough to overcome whatever team that's on their path?
Like personally, like the game they had against us, they just outpicked us. Like when they picked the Kog'Maw in like the last rotation, I was really surprised by it. And the correct pick from us should have been the Mundo instead of the Rumble at that point. And I think their strength is in fact in their ban and pick phase, just because they can come in with a lot of different strategies.
Do you also feel like a lot of the things goes around Power of Evil in the mid lane? Because he's obviously the guy we always look at. He's the star player on the team. I think it's fairly safe to say. And whenever he's not performing, or at least winning his lane, it looks like they have trouble in the mid game. Do you guys also see it the same way, or is all the players able to carry?
I think the best player on that team has to be Vizicachi. I think he has impressed me a lot. I had some knowledge about him before he actually was a part of Unicorns of Love, and I didn't really have a high opinion of him. And at this point in time, I really think he has shown that he's one of the top laners in Europe.
Who to you is the strongest player?
Vizicachi, I hope he doesn't play Maokai because I think he is really good and he can. I want to watch him playing with a carry champion.
Playmaking champion. Let's take a look at their opponents in this one for Vizicachi and Unicorns of Love. It is, of course, SK Gaming, the first place SK Gaming, Freddy122, Svenskar, and Fox. Forgiven and rated, and they are coached by Innerflame. They're coming off a 0-2 week as well, just like the Unicorns of Love. And, well, interesting for them because they went 8-0. Before that, Yamato, when you were looking at those games, what did you think? Where did they drop the ball heavily?
I think it's fairly obvious to take a look at SK's strategy that what they're doing is simply pushing every single lane. And against teams that are worse, it's probably the best strategy because it makes sure that you're first to every objective. If you're pushing, it doesn't really require that much planning in terms of taking, for example, a dragon. You can just come in, you're pushing, you don't have to take care of the waves. And I think, especially in the week that we saw before, like the last week when they went 0-2, was that Fnatic, for example, they punished them for pushing. And Svenskar is put in a really, really awkward position where he has to gamble and predict where the enemy jungler is because he can only counter gank. And with that being said, Fnatic simply capitalized on the early game, got a lot of kills and took the game home.
Nice that you mentioned Svenskar. And out of the 149 team kills of SK Gaming, he is part of 122. It kind of seems that even though he is not the go-to carry, he is in every other thing because he also has to take care of the vision. He has to support his lanes. He has to make sure they can push.
He's so good in the early game, and it was the same last year for SK Gaming, where we can say that weaker players, it was more about the teamwork and not the individual performance like it is now. And yet it was always about him picking a lane to snowball, often Freddy, and then back down to the bottom lane after. And that was how they would win like the early game. this year it's been the same because he's part of so many kills, and we saw Rainover pick that Rek'Sai who can gank earlier than a Jarvan and use that to really start snowballing before Svensson could do anything, and that really worked for Fnatic. And of course, as you said here, once SK fall behind, you can't just push every single lane, and suddenly you're forced to team fight and you're forced to play around vision, which is not the thing SK likes to do.
With that O2 coming in, what do you guys think of how SK will progress as a team? Have the other teams, like Giants that was coming off 2 victories last week, do they have what it takes to stay on top, or are their weaknesses exploitable by more than 1 or 2 or 3 teams? Lozar.
I think SK will win the LCS.
Oh,
There we go.
well,
I wouldn't go as far as say win the LCS, because I think SK, out of all the teams, I think they will scale the worst. I'm going to use the word scaling. I think it fits perfectly. I think towards the end of the split, their strategy is going to not work anymore because the teams are going to improve. Usually in the first split of the season, all the teams are kind of weaker in the strategy and they're just learning their place. And I think SK abused that in the early weeks, and I think that's going to fall off.
yeah, I also think if you look at the big stage, like internationally, SK Gaming, their tactic won't work against, let's say, the GE Tigers from Korea. We're going to see it at IM Katowice very soon if they can manage to pull it off, but I don't see them beating everyone in the laning phase and just do this 1-3-1 split push all the way.
Into this game, you say they will win the split. How do you feel they will do in this matchup? Is this clearly for SK Gaming?
Yeah, they need a win, and I think they will get this.
They'll get it. Come on.
I don't like doing predictions because I'm not a genie in a bottle, but just like looking at what has to be done is that Unicorns of Love simply capitalize on the early game that is flawed from SK Gaming, and if that happens, I think they can take home a game. But I have to mention that SK Gaming's mid game and late game is a lot better than Unicorns of Love.
Yeah, definitely as well. Thank you guys very much for joining us. The teams are ready on stage, so let's hand it over to Pyrotechnics and Quickshot to get this one underway.
Traditionally, Pyro would be the one that would say hello, but I think Yamato, you're not a genie in the bottle, but you might be able to rub a guess the right way.
Whoa. All right, man.
He ended up predicting SK in the end.
He did.
So,
He did. So
don't lie.
SK got the flashback. Wait, what? For this matchup, both teams coming off of it seems like it's sort of a stinging results, 0-2. SK didn't seem too worried by those results. You saw even in the Fnatic game, Forgiven, he's wrapping up his peripherals and he's still smiling. Even against the H2K game where they definitely had some trouble, they didn't seem too worried about it. And maybe this is what they were waiting for is, oh, can someone challenge us and put us outside our comfort zone?
Yes and no. It's a lot easier to accept a defeat when you're at the top of the table and you don't lose anything for it. So yes, they went 0-2, but even with an 0-2 week, SK Gaming are still the #1 team in the league. We also heard from Forgiven after their losses saying that the team simply didn't prepare enough for last week's games, that they had internet problems, there was sickness going around. So they may have understood where the loss come from. The trick comes in fixing it coming into this week's games.
Yeah, picking it back up. Same thing for the Unicorns of Love. They had their statistically worst week of the split. See if they can turn this one around. Zed and Graves banned right away for them. Fizz taken off the table for SK.
So that's an interesting one. Targeted ban towards the Unicorns of Love. We saw Fizz briefly a few weeks ago, but he has since been changed and obviously not really been a very popular pick. So definitely taking that off the table, most likely from Vizicachi. Maybe they know he's playing it in scrims. These are all just very targeted bans. You've still got the likes of Gnar up, Jarvan is still available, Rek'Sai is still available. So there's still a lot of priority picks. And I think SK have put themselves in a position where they can say to the Unicorns, you can take one, and we'll take the 2 that we want the most.
See if that is what they do. Corki actually banned away. That is an interesting choice. Nidalee locked in very, very quickly for Unicorns of Love. It's been fairly contested by both Kikis and Svenskeren. This leaves quite a lot available. The Lissandra was left up, and so is the Rek'Sai. It looks like they're going to get at least one of those. Thinking about the next, yep, that'll be it.
So it feels like actually both teams have got fairly comfortable picks. Seeing the rate at which they got locked in and knowing the proficiency that these guys have, like watching Kikis and Nidalee, it's his 4th time playing it. We see the Gnar locked in for Vizicachi. It's also a champion that he's played a bunch, and we've heard him even saying in the past, it's insta-lock. You've got the same token for Freddy with this flex pick Lissandra and Rek'Sai. So both teams getting really good comfort picks. And if this continues, we may actually see a game play out where it comes down to laning phase and decision making. Because at the moment, everybody's very happy with what they've got locked in.
Yeah. They are indeed deciding what they want. SK is going to slow down the pace of this one just a little bit. Okay, wait a minute, guys. This one's going a little quick for us. Lucian has been where we've seen Forgiven go when he's not able to get that Graves. They lock in the Leona as well. Kate pick didn't work out too well for him last week, so going back to those basics. He still hasn't lost on Lucian, by the way.
Yeah, 4 games played, 2 deaths given up. Again, mobility type AD carry. To quote Crepo from week 1 or week 2, he was saying how Forgiven's dashes on Lucian, specifically aggressively, are some of the most impressive. What I do like from the Leona lock-in for Enrated is it guarantees the ability to jump onto a squishy member of Unicorns of Love. Nidalee wants to poke. Siva wants to poke. Cass, yes, she has engaged power, but if any of them get caught by a solar flare, Lissandra plus Rek'Sai is a very good insta-give team comp to jump on them.
You're absolutely right, but Unicorns, they're relying on their comfort picks. Remember, the only time Power of Evil played Cassiopeia previously, went 5-0-3 on that champion. Massive, massive play for them. And Vardags as well on the Sivir. He's had a couple games on that one. I really think that Unicorns, it's big on the comfort for them, but they're going to have to change their playstyle because last week they were just far too passive, and a team like SK Gaming will run you over with that.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility, and for SK, locking in the Ezreal last pick, they're going to be very, very reliant on a Freddy or Enrated engage. But what I do like from SK is they anticipated or predicted how the Unicorns want to play their comp out. They locked in that Leona in the second rotation, and she's going to do great against a Cassio, against a Siva, against a Nidalee. Yes, Siva can run and spell shield, but fairly immobile Annie, fairly immobile Cassio, and if you can lock down the other two, that's how SK can just get their AD carries to hammer away. We need to see how the lane plays out. If Power of Evil gets onto Fox, there's going to be a lot of hurt being put out from those Twin Fangs. And traditionally, Ezreal doesn't win lane. Ezreal plays to survive lane, get items, and then become effective in the mid to late game.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what SK does with this double AD composition. They've got the Lissandra power up in the top. So with the pick and ban phase timed out here, waiting for the coach to shake hands and go off. I agree, SK has a very clear-cut plan in this one. Quick shot, but after an 0-2 week, how well do you think they'll be able to execute what they've got?
Oh, I think very well. My instinct is the way the pick and ban phase played out, SK seemed to almost predict the comp or understand how to take advantage of the weaknesses that the Unicorns of Love have in place. So for Kikis on this Nidalee, it's going to be so important to have a powerful early game so that in the mid game they can avoid those skirmishes, avoid those Leona engages.
Indeed. Now both teams are coming off an 0-2 week, so tweet us at LOL Esports with the hashtag UOL win or SK win. Let us know who you think is going to start this week with a win. Big cheer up from the crowd, SK and Unicorns. Well, you can hear one louder than the other as we get ready to start off game number 2.
I can't wait to see what the public opinion poll is on this one.
Oh,
the
it's going to be big.
Especially with their new headgear.
They took it off for the game, by the way. You can't fit the headphones over those.
Well, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. But yeah, so for SK, Svenskeren, if he manages to get in onto Power of Evil, he could probably help Fox out in lane. But I'm more inclined to think that Svenskeren's going to help out either Freddy or Forgiven. Get them into an advantageous lane, get them into the lead. And I mean, Lissandra into Gnar, that's already a matchup that's quite favorable for you. So the possibility is quite good for SK.
Oh, that spear though still hurts at level 1. Kikis leveling that one up. Gets Freddy to take a quick back. SK Gaming still playing a very safe one. So we look like we're going to see standard lanes here. At the very least, Forgiven is going to be in a standard lane. Oh, now he's going to get out of the bush.
Yeah, for Forgiven and Enrated, it's going to be looking to punish Hylissang. Leona can jump onto an Annie very quickly, and if they can get some quick burst down onto the Annie and zone her backwards, they can get control of this lane. But until Enrated is able to jump onto the members of the Unicorns, that's a lane that will be in favor of the Unicorns of Love for a few minutes at first, but it looks like a lane swap started.
Yeah, I spoke a little bit too soon, so they're bringing 3 members to the top lane right now. Hylissang Vardag's moving a little forward. They won't have anyone to catch just yet, but SK doing some trickery here, and they're going to send N-rated out. Who's going with him, though?
And you see the defensive placement from SK? Almost expecting shenanigans in the jungle because of the fact that both Kikis and Vizichachi had moved so far into SK's side of the map. It made Freddy as well as Forgiven play him very defensive. I wonder if SK were expecting a lane swap. Maybe because they didn't want to have that top and duo facing off against one another. And as it stands out, you see the buddy system for Unicorns, whereas Freddy's done one camp and is backing.
Yeah, really curious start there from SK Gaming. So Vizichachi Kickus continue to roam together, be able to pick these ones off. So see where Vizichachi ends up going after that. They've already, of course, sent down Vardex to the bottom, so it should be no-brainer up to the top. But how long is he going to be at that? Because this is a free lane right now for Forgiven and Rated.
It's such an interesting thought, the way this team comp's going to play out. Because as long as SK Gaming do not get caught out by an Annie or a Cassiopeia engage, their late game's not going to be too terrible. They've got a fair amount of range poke from the Ezreal that can come out, especially if he does decide to go for an Iceborne Gauntlet. You can throw that down into Gnar, throw that down into Cass, create some more zoning and some control. And because of the fact that Unicorns have got this squishy long-range poke jungler, as opposed to a hard engage from their jungle position, it may buy more time for the double ADs to get the damage down. But again, all of the pressure is going to be on keeping Fox and Forgiven alive.
It's a tale of fire and ice in the bottom lane right now. Vardek's not really getting involved, but Freddy is getting zoned back just a little bit. I'm curious to see how these top laners make do. They usually are able to come back quite well, even after deficits.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that tale of fire and ice plays out, which character gets killed off first.
Yeah,
as is the tradition.
In an SK game, you never really know, to be honest.
No, definitely not. So let's see, who's pushing heavily? SK continuing the trend. Yamato Cannon summarized SK's playstyle fairly simply, that against weaker teams, SK have been able to exert their control by shoving the waves in over and over and over. It allows SK to get to objectives first. It allows them to be the first, feet on the ground, and their opponents have to react. We noticed Forgiven pushing quite heavily top. You can obviously see Enrated and Freddy pushing on the bottom, but Forgiven's the one that's going to be outnumbered if Unicorns decide to push up.
They are pinging for that one. Let's see, Kickus has some ideas here. He's going to jump the wall just a moment. Oh, there's a ward there, so he's going to get spotted. Yep, there we go, right away. Vizichachi goes Mega Gnar, but Forgiven is already on his way out.
Yeah, Forgiven was in full retreat. I think just a few seconds before that happened anyway. Not really type of guy you're going to expect to get caught out, but sees a knock-up or a root has to land. Let's see if it does.
Yep, they're just going to throw a nice shard at Power of Evil. He was making good his escape as well. So far, some of this early aggression hasn't yielded much of anything, although the Skull Crab's in trouble.
As they always are. Bottom half of the map in control of SK, top half in favor of the Unicorns. But it's interesting to see that Enrated has actually had left Forgiven. That Leona, not the greatest in a lane swap, because of the fact that she's melee, because of the fact that, Mini Gnar is going to be able to farm from range, so can't do a whole lot. But Kickus has found Sven.
Yeah, he has, and he's found half his health bar at the very least. Goes back in for number 2, gets knocked up the spear. Will not connect the second time around, and Hylissang was sighted out in that brush. She's going to take it back to base.
Yeah, and again, early game presence from an Italy, despite the fact it's 5.3, still very, very effective. Going to be able to keep putting the damage down, the sustain, and getting the bonus damage from that Hunted and Cougar form means that Sven is forced away. You somewhat expect that in the 1v1. But what's going to be important for Sven is when he can make ganks happen, although he may need to act quickly. Forgiven's getting dived.
Yeah, he is indeed, but Vizichachi's one takes the damage to get the stun. They get the jump, but they get a flash as well. Forgiven trying for the outplay, but that's gonna be first blood for the Unicorns of Love.
Yeah, and Enrated tried to get that Zenith Blade down into Hylissang, but he was just out of range. In fact, flashed for that as well. So was trying to get something back, but did not happen. And the fact that Enrated was roaming, it allowed Unicorns to set that up. If you go all the way back, Unicorns had started that invade, they pulled Hylissang to the top, and they put pressure on Sven before diving top. But now it's Power of Evil in trouble.
Yep, there's a teleport coming in, however. Can he last it? He's not going to connect his ultimate. He burns his flash as well. Sven scaring on the chase. Vizichachi dueling it out with Fox, and Power of Evil might actually get away. Sven thought he had the damage, but here comes Enrated. Kickus here is with Power of Evil, and that was just not well executed.
Yes and no. I actually think both Fox and Sven had a decent attempt, but because of the support from the Unicorns, they couldn't carry on the chase. You actually saw both Fox and Sven turn around to dodge the Petrifying Gaze from Power of Evil, which was great. And the reason Sven had to gank that lane as opposed to the others, obviously Forgiven had just got dove, and the fact that the lane swap played out the way it was. So Sven's only option to make an aggressive play was in that lane.
You got a point there. I will give you that one. And it was just really, really wacky to see how it all played out. But what this means in the end is that everything's still on even pace, with the exception of the Unicorns of Love early gold lead, which hasn't really changed much since the start of this one. Going back to the mid lane right now, Power of Evil, up until that point, hadn't been immensely pressured. He was able to get out of harm's way the only other time they tried to make some action on him. And with the double Doran start, he's got fair enough damage. Fox is not going to be able to really get that aggressive without some backup.
Oh, this is going to be scary. A level advantage to kick as he's caught Sven.
Yep, and Svenskeren runs right over the trap as well. The hop, the skip, the jump, another spear. He's going to be able to heal and tunnel, but here comes Kikis. Didn't expect Enrated to be there. Forgiven, the triple team. Well, it's just a double, I suppose, because Svenskeren was watching from the sidelines. But a quick pickup, and that's a kill to Forgiven.
Despite all of the positive work that Kikis had put down in the jungle and, trying to keep Sven down, it's not denied him CS, and he goes too aggressive. Chachi actually throws his ultimate down on Enrated just to avoid that CC. But again, just, it was smart play from Kikis initially. He got over-eager. He smelt blood in the water and chased too far. So was unable to make that work. And that's an interesting vote.
There's your fan vote. 67% of you saying Unicorns Love going to win. That's 2 to 1, really. There's my math coming in handy. Versus SK Gaming. And considering that SK still considered the big favorites by the coaches there, big favorites by analysts, I mean, that is a big, big number.
It really is. And, Pyro, the Challenger series has taught me one thing, never to do math on air.
That's
so
true.
we need to just keep
I
that in
need to work on
mind.
that one. The Challenger series taught me another thing, is that a team called Unicorns can very much impress.
That's the case. They've got themselves a small lead. SK were trying to shove the waves up, but the lane swap has not worked in their favor. And you could argue that having a Leona in the lane swap is part of the reason, in addition to the fact that Ezreal's not really going to win his lane, etc. So for SK, they're fairly happy to buy their time. They're still relevant on gold, despite the ones being engaged upon. And I still like their team composition when it comes to finding kills. I think it's a little easier and a little safer for a Leona to set up and engage than a Flash Tibbers is. So we'll see whether or not that same late game scaling comes into play. It worked for Fnatic in the previous game.
It's very true. And SK Gaming are a team that, while they may not like to take too many fights, they really do know how to protect the squishiest members of their team and just pelt out a ton of consistent damage. And they're going to have a lot of it between Fox and Forgiven this game. And also Freddy can set these things up. Here we go.
This is going to be a very big fight because Sven knows the Unicorns are here.
Yep, Kikis, he is going to get locked down and taken out. Svenskeren. No chance for backup, and that's a dead kitty.
0-2-1. Somewhat underestimating the tremor sense and the fact SK had numbers advantage. What was very important to note, Forgiven wants Chachi.
Yeah, he does. He dashed forward, starts shootout calling, only hits a couple of shots, but he did get the tower. True shot barrage, a stylish pickup for Fox.
So the one thing we do have to take note here, Unicorns are trying to play aggressive. Part of the reason they lost last week, they didn't take advantage of item timings, they didn't take advantage of champion level power-ups, and they simply got beaten by not being proactive enough. Kikis is trying to carry so hard, he's putting himself in bad positions and he's been punished for it. He gave up a kill a moment ago, he gave up a kill a few minutes ago, even though his idea was good. Get aggression, get pressure, get in the jungle. So for Kikis, he's just going to dial it back and be a little bit more coordinated and controlled with the rest of his team.
You know, up until about a week or two ago, we pretty much exclusively talked about Jungle Nidalee being an early game threat, but Diamond has proved us wrong in that regard. We'll see if he goes for that type of build. Kikis now going to start off the Dragon. Ilsang coming to help as well, but there is the Void Rush. Svenskeren doesn't want to give this one up for free, and like
look for Solar Flare.
Yep, they're going to try to start this one off. Ilsang's the one who's caught. That Solar Flare going to get flashed away. The heal comes up. Svenskeren having to turn tail around as Kikis is around the side, but neither team really in the greatest position to contest this Drake just yet.
No, do the Unicorns feel brave enough to go back? They know that the Void Rush was used. They know there's no Solar Flare. So we need to keep an eye on whether or not SK decides to back. But what was also good to see, SK were not willing to give up that buff because they knew they had the reaction. Teleport was available from Freddy, despite the fact that it was nearby, and obviously the Solar Flare. But they did get that flash from Hylissang. So a few minutes time, and we'll see if he can get caught out.
Teleport being used by Freddy. So that one's going to be down for the time being because Chachi still has his available. But yeah, it does seem like they've decided, let's not attempt the Dragon just yet. Going back to defend those towers.
Both of these mid laners are looking to scale. So they've been sitting, they've both got tiers. They both need items before they can really start putting work on the map. And, Pyro, you were talking about how SK are defending their towers. the strategy that beat SK Gaming last week was getting ahead of them in the laning phase. You know, Fnatic did it through great warding and by punishing SK's wave pushing. SK have not necessarily kept up that heavy push this game. Mostly because I think of Fox on this Ezreal. Forgiven's trying, but again, it's not been 12 minutes of non-stop push. So it means that the only option for Kickers to really get involved was in the jungle. And that was why he was pushing Svenskeren so heavily.
Yeah, it made sense on paper. It just, he pursued a little bit too heavily, and SK were able to collapse on that one. Just really good map awareness from them and really good sense to be able to push off that aggression. So Kikis, he's not in a terrible situation. He can still go to Diamond Prox build. He can still go for this dragon. That's what he's doing right now. So the rest of the Unicorns collapsing on this one. They've got some serious damage, but Svenskeren is here. Sends out the Prey Seeker. They're going to give that one up, however. So first dragon of the game, 13 minutes in. Go to the Unicorns of Love. Like,
very smart. Void Rush had just come off cooldown. Culling had been used in the bottom lane. Yes, Solar Flare was up, but I think Unicorns with a calculated decision. And again, this is just growth from last week. It was improvement from their very slow games that cost them 0-2. Now they're being more decisive. They're making plays. But keep in mind, they're still behind in gold. And that is, of course, because SK has a tower already.
But I'm glad you bring up the fact that they're being more decisive, because that's really what seemed to sink them last week. They were backing off. They were not abusing their power spikes. They completely gave up a power spike. I believe it was versus H2K, and just backed off when they didn't need to. This time, they're asserting the power that they do have, despite the fact that they're down a bit of gold. That dragon pickup was big for them.
Yeah, and I think it's also very important to note, for Unicorns and their team comp, they need to engage. They've got two very heavy champions, and let's see if they can catch them up. Freddy wants power.
Oh, how's that for an engage? They find Power of Evil, the True Shot Barrage, the flash forward. Svenskeren coming around the side, but they don't even need him, and Visit Chachi is just too late to the party.
So very well played from SK. They were invading, trying to set up a play on the blue buff, and they managed to punish Power of Evil for moving into his own jungle. And you see how that hard CC works. For SK, if they get single picks through the Lissandra, the Leona, the Ezreal, that's how they can continue to win team fights. For UOL, it's all about AoE stunts.
Yep, and they are going to land it, but the Zenith Blade coming back in, the Solar Flare. Vardex, oh so low as he's burning down to nothing, and Rated picks him up. But they do manage to find Rated as well.
So in a 3v2, they trade 1-for-1, but Unicorns got the tower as well. So net advantage to the Unicorns of Love. And I think as a team, they need to have those aggressive plays. They need Na to jump in. They need Hylissang to get the CC down. And that will buy the time for Nidalee, Cassio, and Siva to win out. We're going to have very explosive team fights that have the ability to go heavily in favor of one team. Because if a Solar Flare catches a few or a Tibbers catches a few, that's it. That team fight can be over in that instance.
Yeah, these fights can get really explosive. Power of Evil, again, trying to stack up as much as he can. He is, of course, already a solid, well, not a huge amount of CS ahead, but he's doing quite well versus Fox on this Ezreal. Has the Archangel staff completed already. Let's take a look at how that little 1-for-1 happened in the bottom lane there.
Yeah, Vardex, of course, because he couldn't get auto attacks down onto Forgiven, he was forced to focus the tower out, meant that it gave Forgiven some free time to deal damage to Annie. And it was just a fairly textbook. Get the tower, get the dive. And they came away with the kill as well. It did go to Kickers, though.
I like how they were walking straight towards the Rek'Sai tunnel. And then Svenskeren was like, no, back off. That's mine. And then you got to move away from that one. So almost 16 minutes on the clock right now. SK Gaming, fair amount of control in their own jungle. They have lost a tower, but they have one themselves up in the top side as well. Looks like they're going to settle back in to an extended laning phase.
Yeah, and something that we haven't touched on just yet, the fact that Forgiven went for Pickaxe into Avarice Blade. He's actually got his Infinity Edge and his Avarice Blade, whereas Vardags has just finished his Infinity Edge. It's about 900 gold the difference between these two. Yes, there is a kill and a tower, or rather a kill and an assist on Forgiven, but mostly because of that extra gold from the CSing, that Avarice Blade is going to help him get to that Shiv even quicker. So we'll see whether or not Forgiven and SK can make use of that item, make use of the item spike rather, is the term I'm looking for, and punish UOL, because it seems like SK are playing more aggressively. Look in the mid, look in the bottom. SK are pushing where Unicorns are not.
Indeed they are. Power of Evil going to try to push this wave back himself. So Unicorns, they should be able to grab this top side thanks to the power of Visit Chachi and Kikis. Freddy does not want to get involved. He's actually hanging around the side, but of course Hylissang's coming up there too. So they get their second tower, but Svenskeren's hanging around on the bottom side. Vardag's a little bit low, has to back away from this one. And with the minion wave at their backs, SK should be able to push this one down pretty quickly.
with 2 minutes before Dragon. If SK had more wards, I would have really liked this play because they could have got some vision down to set it up for the next trade. They do have a decent ring. We'll get to that. Freddy's caught.
Oh, he is indeed. The Frozen Tomb coming down on him as they juggle a bit of turret. Aggro tries to get away. Kick is taking a few tower shots at the end of it all, but they do manage to pick up the kill. Here comes Svenskeren in for a little bit of revenge. True shot barrage, shaving some off the health bars. Big Gnar against the wall, and Svenskeren goes down to Kikis, who gets some gold back in his pocket. Fox coming in again.
A new challenger appeared.
Oh, and he takes out Hillisang, looking for Vizichachi, but that Mega Gnar still don't want to mess with that one. A big spear coming in. He goes farther forward. He's looking for Vizichachi. So low. Kikis jumps away from the Zenith Blade, and the action just doesn't seem to stop in this top lane.
It does not, but it's SK that come off a little worse for wear. They went in one by one, and the Unicorns punished them for it. Kikis is racking up more kills to his name, and Chachi with a very good stun onto Svenskeren. This is just actually a very well-coordinated dive. There's not a whole lot to it. Hillisang tanks up the tower for a couple of shots, and then Svenskeren, he feels he can get a quick kill, but underestimates the mobility of Nidalee, and obviously may have anticipated the true shot barrage being on point. But unfortunately, Unicorns, just with a great tower dive, get themselves a goalie. Keep in mind, Forgiven did trade the top tower for the bottom tower, so they're keeping themselves close-ish on those objectives.
Of course, Power of Evil got the middle tower at the same time, so they were able to pick a little bit back up for it. After all the craziness subsides, it's 10 seconds till the Dragon is going to respawn. Unicorns looking to try to muscle in on this one. A lot of vision both sides, but the Tremor Sense for Svenskeren is going to be able to detect a lot of the Unicorns.
Yeah, and look at the itemization here for Kikis. Up against a double AD comp and an AD jungler, he's gone for the Iceborne Gauntlet. So not only is it going to give him more zoning and more, in team fights, it's also armor.
Yes, it is. Hillisang, though, wishes he had some of that right now. Forgiven is going to take him out. Solar Flare lands. Power of Evil picking up Freddy 1-2-2. The Stone Gaze. Svenskeren, a double kill for Power. They're looking for more. Forget the Dragon. And Radiant's going deep. He's going down. Kikis on a rampage. And they get themselves a 3-for-1.
Unicorns of Love find the team fights. SK Gaming should not be in a position where they're going in a straight head-to-head. They need to kite, they need to move, they need mobility on their side, and it simply did not happen. Unicorns win a convincing team fight, get themselves a tower, and they can even peel back for Dragon if they're feeling confident enough.
Just a few seconds remaining before everyone respawns. There they go. Instantaneous Void Rush. You hear the scream going out. Can Svenskeren really contest this one? It seems like SK, in their hastiness, they've made some mistakes. This Dragon, True Shot Barrage, is just going to actually help out. Kikis is a little bit low, though. This is going to be close. They should be able to smite that. No, they actually just go ahead and pick it up with Vardags at the end.
Yeah, so Snipe was not actually available from Kikis. You see it fall down. But Unicorns just with a great team fight. I'm pretty sure that Solar Flare from Unrated hit nobody. Unicorns either flashed or peeled away from it. And as soon as there was no CC, look at this. 4 members of Unicorns of Love against 3 from SK.
They put everything on Hillisang.
Yeah, Solar Flare catches Vizichachi on the side. That wasn't even a full-on stun. And at the end of the day, SK were hoping to find a pick, and it backfired. They went too deep, they thought they had somebody, and they didn't. Unicorns with such a great response.
Yeah, and they're not respecting the Gnar. The Mega Gnar power Vizichachi is throwing out, as well as the houses, is just way too much. So they do get a tower after all that. It's 3-4. They are keeping relevant. They're now, though, down 3,000 gold.
Did he steal it?
I think he did. Oh, nicely done, Fox. So he can take both blue buffs whenever he wants.
Jeez.
So they're able to get that back at the very least.
That was blind as well.
Yeah.
There's no vision there for SK. Well played, Fox. So stealing that blue buff. It's a small win, but it's not the end of the world, mostly because of the fact that Power of Evil's got a lot of mana to play with that fully stacked Archangels. He's going to be able to keep growing in power. We'll see on how much ability power Power of Evil's racked up. It's 351. And the Unicorns, with all of their damage, they've started up an early Baron.
They're pinging Power of Evil. They know he disappeared on that side. They have to know this is happening. There is no Void Rush available. They don't have enough people in the area. Fox, he's going to have to try to do something. No, it's too late. That's going to get taken down. The Baron picked up at 21.5 minutes for the Unicorns.
There's a few reasons why this is so good. Number one, Unicorns made an estimated guess that SK didn't have vision. You can see all the pinks that Unicorns had there. That was obviously the controlled side, but they knew that SK did not have vision in their jungle. They punished SK for their lack of wards. Secondarily to that, Sheepy said in the pregame today, as a team, we could optimize our Barons. That is the most optimized Baron you could have. 21 minutes on the board, The only problem is, because they didn't back away to defend their lanes, they've lost 1, maybe 2 towers. We'll see if they can get after this fight.
This would be a very dangerous fight, but they turn on and raided. He's burning down and going down. Visit Chachi finding the kill pickup. Meanwhile, up in the top lane, Vardags is just continuing to push away Kikis. Gotta be careful. He's going to burn his flash to make his escape, but they just need to stop the backs. Void Rush having to be used by skirmishes to peel Vardags away. The Unicorns still charging forward. Meganar, tower goes down. Frozen Tomb, Gillisang going to evaporate. Freddy is going down as well. Fox picks up a killing spree, but a double over to Power of Evil. Forgiven can't do a thing. A triple kill to Power, and up in the top lane, I don't even know what's happening anymore, but an inhibitor's going down. Quick shot.
There was no bad call at all. Yes, Unicorns of Love may have given up some ground on those towers, but they punished SK. They sent Vardags top in a great decision. Vardags was able to get the top turret, the inhibitor as well, and while he was applying all of that pressure, it allowed the rest of the Unicorns to just jump on SK. Even if the Unicorns had lost the team fight and lost multiple members, but got the inhibitor, it still would have been a worthwhile trade. The Unicorns of Love have got absolute control of this game, and that was just really good decision making as a team to understand the cost, the variables, and what they could get, because they took the biggest objectives you can at the moment.
Yeah, and against a team as scrappy as SK is, that is just an achievement that you cannot understate. Forgiven's always seems to be the last guy to go down in those kinds of situations, but they finally take him out. They take out the rest of them. And yeah, they had to send skirmishes in a mad panic back up to the top lane. He still couldn't defend anything, and that is one thing a Sivir is going to be fantastic at. As far as AD carries go, split pushing works out quite well in their favor. And now the Unicorns of Love still with that Baron buff.
Here comes
They're going to
Hylissang.
look for another fight. Hylissang flash, Tibbers on and raided as tanky as he is. Going to go down to Vardags. Freddy trying to get away, but Visit Chachi on the hop is going to force his flash. They find Fox. Whoa, got to back away from that one as True Shot Barrage comes in to push him back, but they're still pushing as far as they can in the mid.
Yeah, culling was used just to wave clear out from Forgiven. Unicorns of Love are strangling SK out of the game. They've got another inhibitor turret.
Oh, they're looking for some revenge from that loss. They suffered a very grueling one against SK several weeks ago. They take inhibitor number 2 right now. SK's base is not looking too hot. Quick shot.
It's not at all. The Unicorns of Love have just... They found everything that they did not have last week. The reason that the Unicorns of Love lost their games was because of the fact that they couldn't take advantage of their position or their team comp. And this time around, Hylissang's engages have been perfect. He's been involved in 11 out of his team's 12 kills. Power of Evil is putting all of the damage on the side lanes, and Vardags, yes, it's not the greatest scoreline at 1-1-4, but he followed the communication from his team. The call was push top, and it was Vardags' pressure on the top lane that got Unicorn's inhibitor. 25 minutes on the board, a 10,000 gold lead.
Yeah, there's too many threats on this Unicorns team for SK to individually deal with. And as much as they're trying to contest objectives, as much as they're trying to push back, the lack of vision is punishing them. Skirmishes is waiting in this brush to see if anyone checks too far forward. But there are a lot of members of Unicorns here. Skirmishes, he's going to move out of town as he dodges away from the Javelin thanks to his tunnel network.
You know, something that we just have to highlight, that the first inhibitor that went down for SK fell at 22 minutes, 50 seconds. That is the quickest inhibitor SK has given up in the spring split. SK is on the verge of going 0-3. For a team that went 8-0, it feels like the higher quality teams have figured them out.
And there we go. Kick is finding something right there as he gets a quick pickup. And Raider going to try to save the day. Here comes the True Shot Barrage. But there is so much damage on this Unicorn squad. A shutdown for Forgiven, but they are in full retreat. Back to Fountain. The Unicorns of Love can grab themselves another inhibitor right after this one. Everything out of SK Gaming's base. The death timer's 20 seconds ticking. SK Gaming, a mad dash to try and save their base.
At 21 minutes, Unicorns made a brave call to go for the Baron. It worked out so well that 4.5 minutes later, they're knocking on the Nexus turret. The Unicorns have just got great decision-making in the mid lane here.
Absolutely, and they're going to back off from this one right now, but they do get one Nexus turret down. There are minions streaming in. They've got the double waves of super minions coming out as much as they can. Here we go, skirmishes going to try to get the flank on as he moves. Kikis, though, they're going to start this one off. Hylissang a little bit low, but still trying to keep himself safe. skirmishes flashing forward, looking for Hylissang. True Shot Barrage is going to be the thing that finishes him off, however. Kikis following over the wall, not able to connect the Spirit Visit Chachi. They're taking even more action. They pick another another kill. Here comes Fox. Shutdown going over to the Ezreal. However, Vizicachi is able to hop right on his head and stomp him down like a Goomba. Forgiven finally gets the kill, but it is just oh so messy for SK.
SK Gaming want to channel their inner Team Solo mid for the next 20 minutes. TSM held off against Team Liquid with 3 inhibitors down for 3 consecutive waves. It was even harder because Team Liquid had Barons, had Dragon buffs, the aspect of the Dragon. For Unicorns, they need to just regroup, get themselves as 5, wait for the minions to push into SK's base, and then make use of the mobility from Sivir and the zoning from Gnar. Let the super minions take the base down. You just keep the champions busy. We'll see if Unicorns can do better than Team Liquid did.
We will indeed see, even though Liquid did end up taking that game at the end of the day. SK Gaming looking to stall this one out. They're sending out True Shot Barrages just to clear the waves away. A 3rd Dragon now picked up by Unicorns of Love. We usually don't say that when all 3 inhibitors are down, but that
I don't think we ever say that, Pyro.
I agree. This has been a very, very unusual game, Quickshot.
The thing that's just so great is the Unicorns, it's decision-making that won them the game. Team Comp versus Team Comp, you can argue the merits, who was better, who was worse, but what Unicorns did more appropriately than SK was get the pink wards down early in the Baron pit, rush it, and the moment they had that, they instantly pushed waves. They instantly pushed against SK, and they didn't dawdle. They didn't wait for their opponents to hit more items and more power.
Well, the game may not be over, strictly speaking, yet, but Unicorns are looking to make it just so. The Baron immediately spawning and taking some heavy fire from all 5 members of the Unicorns. No way that SK can try and contest this one, and for a team that had prided itself. There's the True Shot Barrage, a little bit too early from Fox. It's taken down. You gotta wonder if they maybe had some of that vision in there, they wouldn't have to be blind firing.
Yeah, and it is a problem that SK needs to work on. Individually, they've got great players, and as a team, they do have very good team fighting and map play, but only when they have a lead. Something that SK's yet to show is an ability to dig deep and defend and play from behind, which is actually something they did phenomenally well last year. In the summer split, SK was the team that lost lane, but still won the game because of their mid and their late game decisions. And this is going to be tough. They've called Freddy again.
Oh, and they hop right over him. He's going to Frozen Tomb himself for just a few moments. Vizicachi going to be able to finish him off. Power of Evil takes the end of the Solar Flare, but it doesn't even matter. Forgiven, trying to cull his way to something, but it is absolutely nothing at all. Inhibitor going down again. Unicorns are 5 strong, looking to charge down the remaining members of SK Gaming. The Nexus turret, final one remaining, going down, and in just under 30 minutes, the Unicorns of Love have done it. They take down SK Gaming, who fall 3 losses in a row.
Fantastic performance from the Unicorns as that Nexus went down. I looked over my shoulders.
That is a good chant.
And the audience were on their feet. They won the Twitter poll. They bounced back from 0-2. And Unicorns are the real deal.
They indeed are. One of the quickest games that we have had to take down SK Gaming, and it was so convincing the other way the last time these 2 teams met up. But big smiles on their faces as they walk back to the booth, give themselves, and of course Sheepy, another big hug. Well deserved.
I think it's very important you mention that. With SK's losing streak now, they're 8-3. Unicorns of Love find themselves in a 6-5 record. However, the head-to-head is now tied because of the fact that UOL are now 1-1 versus SK. As the games continue to play out towards the end of the split, if we have tiebreaker scenarios in the top half of the table, it's games like this that give Unicorns a better shot at a semi-final position, a better shot at a top 2 placement. It's still a few games away, but this is one of the things. They took an inhibitor from SK Gaming faster than any other team in the European LCS.
Right, and this is looking great for them. Obviously, it's worth mentioning they had an 0-2 week. It was one of the worst weeks they've had in the LCS so far. They still have yet to find some of that consistency, but if they can play like that, maybe not every game, that's a tall order, but if they can play like that, at least most of them, they can certainly find themselves in that playoff contention. They're going to be facing off, of course, against Meet Your Makers coming up tomorrow.
Yep.
So I would hesitate to say it should be as hard as that SK game looked at first.
Stranger things have happened.
That's very true.
So
I'll take my hands off that one.
You can't put it there, but I think if you step back and look at this game holistically, the lane swap slowed things down. SK were again unable to make an impact in the lane. It was the same problem last week. Svenskeren did not have his usual impact in the early game, which is something that helped them get that 8-0 record. Even though Kikis made mistakes, even though Kikis invaded and gave up kills, it still wasn't enough for SK to take the lead or take advantage. Unicorns were still able to bounce back, and they just worked as a unit very, very well.
Speaking of bouncing, I really, really want to highlight Vizicachi's Gnar play because there were just so many good points where it looked like he got caught out, but he was baiting into his team. He hopped back on. He was able to actually get some serious Gnar ultimates for either isolation kills or a couple of really big team plays. And on the other side, there just wasn't as much coordination in these fights from SK. It seemed like they were kind of running around and just trying to get picks, but it just didn't work that well for them.
Yeah, I agree with you. It actually felt like the decision-making or when to go in for SK was lacking this game. The few times they did try, they would throw everything at a kill, not secure it, and then once Chachi jumped in and would get his Mega Gnar, he was enough of a zoning presence and a threat on that front line that Power of Evil and Vardags, I never once felt like they were at threat. When you look at those team fights, it's always Chachi on the front line. It's always Hylissang flashing forward, Kikis and his Nidalee. And all of a sudden, you know, you've got Cassio and Siva still hammering away. So yes, Chachi did great, but he was just standing there saying, look, you either deal with me or I stun you and you die.
Yeah, talk about playing to those win conditions. Now, for a closer look at that match, we're going to go ahead and hand it back to Shox at the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, guys. We're joined here by the Unicorns of Love's Vizicachi after that win over SK Gaming. Fantastic. SK Gaming with that are now sharing first place with Fnatic after their third straight loss, and you guys gave it to them. Talk to me about picks and bans, and specifically the fact that you got your hands on that Gnar. Last week, you gave it up once in favor of a Jarvan. Did you realize that that was something that was definitely something you had to get?
Yeah, definitely. We consider the Gnar pretty high priority again. However, we have some junglers that we think are more worthwhile picking, so that's why we first picked the Nidalee this time. So actually SK had the opportunity to pick the Gnar, but they chose the Lissandra instead, which is like a totally normal choice as well. The two top laners are like pretty even. They have really strong team fighting potential, like good laning phase as well. But I was happy to get the Gnar because I was planning to play him actually.
And just looking at the team comps, did you feel like you guys won the pick and ban phase?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, because again, when you come to double AD, we talk about this. I saw there was some discussion on Twitter as well. When you pick Leona into a double AD comp like SK Gaming did, I feel like it's so risky because if you don't win like on 15, 20 minute point, if you don't get a massive lead right there, then Leona won't add anything because you want to like peel for the 280 carries, and she's not going to offer that except for like a little bit of CC, but the likes of Janna would have been so much better. What is your take on these double AD compositions where you don't run like a disengaged support and you pick Leona instead?
I personally like to play against it. I wouldn't like to play with it. It's really strong if you master it. Like we can see it in the Korea. If FLICKR plays Ezreal mid, everyone can be super afraid because he will just hit every single Q and be a monster on it. But you really need to master these team comps to be effective with them. And I think it's exploitable as well for some extent. Like we have the Severe, which is a great engage tool.
Yeah.
And some CC to back it up. It's really easy to engage on them.
Let's actually take a look at your team comp in actions, get a replay up on the screen of one of the Dragon fights. You can take us through that and how you played that one. We can roll the clip.
Okay, so we discussed that we want to take the Drake. I don't want to use my TP yet, but we see a good engage opportunity here. They engage on us, I TP in, and we call the Leona instantly. But then Hylissang gets a really good stun onto the Lissandra, so we try to burst her down.
You get caught here for a second.
Yeah, I got caught here for a second, but I'm still super tanky, so I can just join my rest of the team and we can just clean up with Cassiopeia from now on, and Severe will help a lot as well.
Yeah, and I guess in this case, or in this situation here for you guys, your comp, at least in my opinion, would outscale SK Gaming's pretty easily, especially with you going Thornmail, Randy, and so on. I mean, late game here, did you guys know, as after you won this fight, and if you went late game, that it was going to be okay? Or did you feel like SK still had a chance?
I even said I think that if I get 4-mail, I will just be able to tank the double AD so easily, and I can maybe 1v1 any of them as well during a fight.
No. I just very quickly want to ask you, because we had Yamato, Kana, and Losak here, the coaches from Giants and MYM before, and they said they feel like you are one of the best top laners here in Europe. How do you rank yourself among the top laners? Are you up there? Are you top 3 for sure, or what do you think?
I think I would consider myself something like top 3, yeah. I still have a lot to improve because I haven't been performing too good in the LCS. In scrims I actually do better nowadays, so maybe it's the stage or something, but I think I did good in this game. Hopefully more games are to come.
Diplomatic. Well, very good from you guys in this one, bouncing back and beating SK Gaming, the Unicorns of Love. In just a few minutes, Roccat will face off against H2K. The question is, can Roccat keep their momentum up after beating Elements last week? Stay tuned. You'll find out in 3.5.
Forgiven, did you see that? Did you see the thing? Give pain, forgiven.
Was it Greek people?
I think it's Greek, I don't know.
Solar Flare lands, Power of Evil, picking up Freddy 1-2-2, the Stone Gaze, Svenskeren, a double kill for Power. They're looking for more, Tower goes down, Frozen Tomb, Gillisang going to evaporate, Freddy is going down as well. Fox picks up a killing spree, but a double over to Power of Evil.
Okay. Got there? No! Nice! Careful, Chad. Leona! Leona's dead.
Oh, and they hop right over him. He's going to Frozen Tomb himself for just a few moments. Vizicachi going to be able to finish him off. Power of Evil takes the end of the Solar Flare. The Unicorns of Love have done it. They take down SK Gaming.